So the point or purpose of this short video is to offer a critique of the absolutist pro-life position. This is the position that says a human person exists from the point of conception or fertilization, and thus from that point on, any termination of the pregnancy constitutes murder, whether that pregnancy is a result of incest or rape, or even if it constitutes a threat to the life of the mother, it's all murder, because from the point of fertilization, conception, the human conceptus is a full human person. Okay, that's the absolutist pro-life position. And now I've given this thought experiment on several occasions in longer videos and discussions, but I don't think I've made a short video describing it. So I'm going to synopsize it here for those who are interested. So here's an objection by way of a thought experiment to this absolutist position. So it begins with a principle that I think would be widely accepted. That principle is that in a crisis situation, you prioritize saving as many human beings as possible. So, for example, if a fire breaks out in a building and in room one, there is one infant, and in room two, there are 10 infants, then you first go to room two, all things being equal, because you want to prioritize saving the 10 infants, and then you'll try to save the one infant. And that's the principle, that you maximize as much human life as possible to save. So you prioritize the 10 over the one. Now, if the absolutist position is correct, then it follows that a frozen embryo, which a frozen embryo, human embryo, look kind of like this, right? Except obviously much smaller. That a frozen human embryo is morally equivalent to a human infant. And if that's the case, then we can apply the same principle that you're obliged to. You ought to maximize saving human life. And we just come back to the thought experiment. Now, on the second run through the thought experiment, one infant is in room one, and not just 10, but let's say it's 100 fertilized ova are in room two. Well, clearly, if you ought to prioritize saving 10 infants over one, you go to the room two first and then room one. So in the second scenario, if there are 100 frozen embryos in room two, then you ought to prioritize saving the 100 frozen embryos over the one human infant. And yet, most people, in my experience, the vast majority indeed, would go to room one in the second scenario, and they would save the one infant over the 100 fertilized ova. And I believe that's evidence that people recognize intuitively, implicitly, that there is moral and ontological development that occurs in utero from the point of fertilization to some point later in pregnancy, thus that the death of the organism and the abortion of a human conceptus is not morally and ontologically equivalent at all points during conception, let alone post-conception, or I should say post-parturition or after birth, when you have a full infant. And that is evidence, strong evidence against the absolutist pro-life position.